All right, let's pivot a little bit off that. Let's talk a little bit about the trade deadline. Deadline's coming up October 31st. So Tuesday, Halloween, 4 p.m. is the deadline. Jets have a few players that could be interesting to some other teams. Carl Lawson, Dalvin Cook, two names that Jet fans are probably okay with moving on from. And then you have guys like maybe a Bryce Hall or I don't think people in this chat want to trade Bryce Huff, but I think there's going to be some calls sent the Jets' way for him as well. What are you thinking about the trade deadline? Do you think the Jets should go out and make a move, or do you think the Jets should be looking to move players? What are your overall feelings?
Can I say both? I would like to
Yeah.
see a little bit of both. If I were to put like odds or like a percentage on what I think happens, I think the Jets are much more likely to just sell off a Lawson or a Dalvin Cook, something like that for, a day 3 pick or a pick swap or whatever the case may be. But in addition to that, I'd like to see them add another wide receiver, which sounds crazy because they just traded one. But as we know, it gets a little thin after Alan Lazard. You're looking at the corpse of Randall Cobb and a UDFA after that. And, maybe it's give Jason Brownlee a shot, and sure, but that's 2 UDFAs that you're inserting into lineup now, which is asking a lot on a team that you're hoping is a playoff team. Guy that I mean, as much as I would love Devontae Adams, I think the semi-realistic one that I'd really like is Cortland Sutton, because that way you can move Garrett Wilson back into the slot and have him do some damage there, because with Randall Cobb and Xavier Gipson, I mean, both of those guys are exclusive slot guys, and you can't really get Garrett in there as much and get the mismatches. So that's what I would like to see. I'd like them to move on from both Carl Lawson and Dalvin Cook. And then also add a Cortland Sutton. But I would think we're more likely to see them just trade off a piece.
Yeah, I would say I fall in a similar category. Like, I'd like to see them go after a wide receiver. I'm a little skeptical as to how much they're going to invest into that wide receiver. Sutton's young enough that I think they would consider like a 3rd round pick maybe for him. I'm still torn as to where I'd want to go. Like, part of me wants to wait till after the season and go after someone like a Mike Evans, who can, be that big red zone threat. I don't think the Bucs are going to move him in season right now because they're leading their division. I think his timeline kind of matches up a little bit better with Garrett Wilson's eventual contract. Like, you could theoretically sign Evans for like 3 years and then let him go, and then Garrett gets his big contract. Other guys around the league, I like Sutton. I just don't know if I keep coming back to the whole Sean Payton and Nathaniel Hackett thing. Like, I don't know if they're going to be on the friendliest of terms where they're going to want to help us out. Now, maybe if we're the only person offering a pick and they're wanting to sell, they don't care. It doesn't matter. I just don't know if I want the Jets to be the highest bidder. And I feel like, do you think Sutton goes for a 3rd round pick?
I was maybe a 4th. I don't think it would be a 3rd round pick because there's some money on the contract next year as well. So I guess it's possible. And I would strongly consider it, but I wasn't thinking a 3rd. I was thinking a 4th or 5th.
If you can get him for that, I'm definitely down. It's almost like, and then you get to players kind of like Terrace Marshall. Like, people were talking about him being available from Carolina, former 2nd round pick. You'd assume probably a later pick, like a 5th, 6th, 7th round pick, probably, if they're looking to move on from him. I would rather, I think, see Brownlee given a few snaps as opposed to trading a pick and going like someone that route. Sutton's a totally different animal than like the Brownlee, Terrace Marshall kind of level player.
Yeah, because Sutton's a known commodity. Like Terrace Marshall, you're taking on a project. You're like, oh, I hope we could turn him into something, and maybe he just needs to change of scenery, where like Sutton's one of the best red zone threats in the game right now, and he's a jump ball guy, and it's like, hey, like the Jets suck in the red zone. They are worst in red zone efficiency right now. Like, that it makes too much sense.
Yeah, no, 100%. A few other guys, like I would love to see Carl Lawson and Cook traded. Did you see the Pro Football Focus trades that they threw up today?
No,
I think it was today or yesterday. So they had both those guys moving. Cook going to Baltimore for like a 6th round pick, and I think it was Carl Lawson getting traded to the Vegas Raiders for Hunter Renfrow. And I was like, wow, I would take both those. I would do both those trades right now.
Me too. And I understand, like, some people on Twitter, like, Hunter Renfro's done. And I don't know if he is done. I just think for like he's probably not the 1,000-yard receiver he was a couple of years ago, but the Jets
Mhm.
aren't asking him to be that. Can he just be a professional who gets open and catches a football? Like that would be an upgrade. And if you're swapping it for Carl Lawson, yeah, absolutely.
It'd be pretty cool if you made the move for someone like Renfro and then you turn around 2 weeks later and play him against the Vegas Raiders, in
That
Vegas. And Raiders fans like Renfro. I don't think it's a player they necessarily want to trade. I feel like they might feel they need to trade him. Do you think Jacobs gets moved over there at all?
Now you want to talk about washed? He kind of stinks this year. He's
Yeah,
been
he has
really
not done well.
no.
Talk about a good franchise tag.
Yeah, smart, right? Like smart.
Mhm.
He had a fantastic year last year, right? Was stellar, led the league in rushing, but now this year, just not the same guy. And he's getting a ton of reps too. It's not like they're giving him the ball. He has a ton of carries, but his yards per carry is just horrific.
Yeah, no, not good at all. As far as buyers go, I don't think there's an offensive lineman for the Jets.
No.
And I don't feel like Cook or Lawson necessarily provide a whole lot. Like if you can get like a player that another team's trying to dump off, similarly to what the Jets are kind of trying to do, I think that's an even swap. But like I don't really think I want to give up picks. That first and third round pick in particular, those are the two picks I want to hold on to for sure going into the offseason.
Yeah, I got crushed because I said that as crazy as it sounds, I might rather trade a day 3 pick for Cortland Sutton than give up a first round pick for Devontae Adams, because then you're
Oh, I would
without
do
a
the same thing. I'm
there's no first or second round pick then. And they're like, you're
I'm
crazy. What do you mean he's not worth the first? I'm like, well, I never said he's not worth it. I said that it might be tough if you don't have a pick in the first 2 rounds with this team.
Oh yeah, no, I agree. I would not go after Devonte Adams as much as people are like all gung ho about him, and I didn't think it was realistic in season anyway because of his contract. I thought it was a little prohibitive. Even in the offseason, if they were like, "Hey, first round pick for Devonte Adams," and it gets him in New York, I don't think I'm doing it. I really don't. And it's not that he's not worth it. I think someone should absolutely offer a first or a first and third to get him. I think he's really talented, but I feel like Garrett Wilson is kind of our Devonte Adams, and we need to find a different size profile, which would like Mike Evans, who's going to be a free agent, or T. Higgins, who's going to be a free agent, or then you can go other routes if you want to go with a Darnell Mooney or a Hollywood Brown. There's going to be a lot of receivers that hit the open market in the offseason, and I would rather go after one of them for the money as opposed to the money and the picks with Devonte Adams, especially when you got to upgrade the offensive line. Like I don't know where we go in the first round of the draft, but I got to think tackle, guard, center, whatever, the best offensive lineman that possibly falls to you is the one you should be taking.
Agree, and thank God for AVT, because he can either play guard or tackle. So if you're in a spot where you're taking tackle, great, AVT's playing guard. If it's the best guard available, great, then Joe Tippmann's playing center, the rookie's playing guard, and AVT's playing tackle. But I'm 1,000% with you. It's almost a disservice to your franchise if you're not drafting an offensive lineman in the first round.